I got a new shower curtain, and it took me almost 3 weeks to hang it up. It's not a complicated task. It's not something that takes a lot of time or energy. Why did hanging it up feel like it was going to be so draining? Why couldn't I just get it done? The thing is, it's never about the thing and how simple it is. It's about how many applications your task manager is running in the background that you haven't accounted for. Hey, I'm Dr. Regina, Ph.D., and this is Divergent Paths, the podcast for late diagnosed neurodivergent folks, where we explore the many hidden and not so hidden challenges we face. I also write a weekly newsletter, Nerd Notes, where I go into even more detail on the topics the podcast covers. The link to subscribe is in the show description. One of the places I see many of my clients experiencing deep shame is how simple tasks can feel really hard. I do a lot of work with my clients and with myself to undo a lot of this thinking, not just because shame is harmful, but also because when you're late diagnosed, you don't realize how busy your brain is and how much of your capacity is drained, running tasks you're unaware of. When we start looking at how to build your true capacity, we work on identifying those hidden costs. When budgeting our time, generally we think about the physical time it's going to take us to do something. If you think about, I'm going to go out to coffee with a friend, you think, oh, that's going to take about 2 hours. But you don't think about all of the other pieces, getting ready, driving there, figuring out where it is you're going, or remembering where you're going, not going to the wrong coffee shop. Not that I've done that, totally done that. All of these things are pieces that go into making that coffee with a friend happen. For a lot of people who are late diagnosed, we don't really recognize many of the pieces that go into that event. We think about the capacity it takes to get to the 2-hour coffee, and that's it, right? We don't think about all of the other things going into play. We don't think about these things that are eating up your brain space behind the scenes. We compare our output to other people around us who don't have as high a cost from some of those processes. One of my closest friends said to me, she realized that I have a subscription to DoorDash. I pay for the additional things so I don't have to pay the cost on delivery. She laughed and said, yeah, I realized that you have that because you don't live with a chef. I was like, I definitely don't live with a chef. I'm pretty much just me cooking. She realized that I didn't have something that she had, the support. She doesn't have to worry about the capacity it takes to cook because she has someone in her household who loves to cook for her and for their family. I don't have that. And she realizes that how much capacity it takes for me to cook is a lot more than she has to factor in herself. It's not that this is some failing of character. I just don't have this support. And it was funny to me that she had realized I'm using DoorDash as a means of supporting my capacity, because sometimes I don't have the capacity at the end of the day to figure out what to eat, and I will just push the button and get something delivered. Note that I do have some privilege to be able to do that, and that it is higher cost for me to do it, but the exchange on the days when I am completely depleted and I am starving is 100% worth it. Looking at trying to build your capacity, you really have to start looking at what things actually cost. For me, cooking has a high cost because it means managing the ingredients, it means managing what's in my fridge, it means taking mindful steps to buy things and prepare to be able to cook. It means trying to realize what it is I'm going to want to eat, which is almost impossible for me sometimes. There are all these tiny things that go into it that isn't just, well, go fix yourself something to eat. It's like, oh, but I have this 100 other things going on that have to get me to the point where I can actually make myself something to eat. When we look at the cost of any task, we have to look at that ramp up, what it takes, the initiation, the prep, and the transitions, in this case, to get yourself in the kitchen to do the cooking, the active load, what it takes to make the meal. If you are cooking for other people, is there masking involved in that? Are you comfortable cooking for other people and with other people watching? Or is this something that you put on a performance for? Is there a masking tax involved in the task you're trying to do? And what is the recovery? With cooking, that often means the cleanup of the kitchen, right? Where it seems like, oh, this is a 20-minute meal to prepare, some recipe may tell you, doesn't talk about the time that it takes and the energy it takes to get the ingredients and all of the other things ready so you can actually make that meal. A lot of our care tasks, because cooking is a care task, it's how we take care of ourselves, have a hidden initiation cost, because if you're not driven and you're not interested in cooking or cleaning or organizing, you don't get a lot of dopamine and your interest-based nervous system is not ignited by it. So it ends up being even harder for you to get started on doing the things. That's why putting the shower curtain up was so expensive for me, because I wasn't accounting for all of the steps that needed to happen in order to be able to put up. I had to get the step stool out so that I could get up to hang it up. I had to make sure that my daughter was ready for the change of a new shower curtain. And I had to actually do the task of taking down the old one and getting rid of it. I also had to make sure I had hooks that were going to work with the new curtain. There were a lot of different pieces that went into the shower curtain hang up. It was a lot of physical work, but it was also a lot of emotional labor as well to make sure everything, I was ready, she was ready, all of these different pieces had to be in place for this to happen. We tend, as late diagnosed neurodivergent folk, to price things at neuronormative prices, right? We think, oh, this is just this one little thing that I need to do. This should only take 20 minutes. And then that stacks shame on top of all of the other hidden costs running in our task manager. All of these other things that have to go into play to do that quote unquote simple task that we're not paying attention to. What we need to do here is learn some discernment so we can apply all of these different pieces to every activity that we are participating in. And you're not learning to discern what it takes because you're less capable. This is a process of assessing the cost accurately so that when you say no or when you say yes to something, it's based on what it's actually going to cost you versus what you believe it should cost you. And that's a very big difference a lot of time for us. Once we start looking at our true capacity and what things really cost and start looking at some of these hidden factors that are impacting all of these quote unquote simple things that we need to get done, you can start recognizing that costs are real. Once you can see them, it's easier to plan for them. Some of those tasks that are running in the background, that shame that I haven't gotten the shower curtain up and it's been sitting on my counter for me to do for 3 weeks and pretending that it doesn't exist, all of that gets to go away when I'm like, oh, this is expensive because I have XYZ to do. Because then you're recognizing what the cost truly is. Because we're wired for connection. Humans are just wired for connections. We tend to over-allocate our social capacities. We think we can do more. We want that connection. We desire that connection so much. Or we do the other, where we want to prioritize the care tasks and we don't want to prioritize the social as much. And those factors eat into the capacity we have for interacting with other people. Discernment comes into play when we start pulling at the threads of autopilot, what we think needs to run just in the background without us thinking about it, and pulling that into conscious view. And that's when we can start undoing some of the shame involved with simple tasks that don't seem so simple. Some practical steps you can take to start unpacking and looking at your capacity and start discerning what is going on for tasks that you need to get done. You can start looking at things that are load-bearing, things that your life is supported on, and things that are optional. Some of these processes, some of these applications that are running are necessary. You do need to eat. I do need to eat. It is important to feed yourself. It is important to endeavor to keep your space clean. And start distinguishing between what you're running out of habit and what you feel shame around. I should do something because people expect it of me. Or something like, oh, if I was a real grown-up, I would have steamed the shower curtain when we hung it up and not left it wrinkled, hanging up. But the fact that it got up after 3 weeks was success enough for me. And I can just drop that shame of, it doesn't really matter if the shower curtain has some wrinkles in it, right? Discernment starts by telling those two things apart. What are the things that needed to happen? The shower curtain needed to be put up. The thing that was optional was that it didn't need to be steamed so that it was prettier. And another step you can take is to lower your expectation that everything has to be set at some really high achieving place. Not every task you do needs to be run at high definition. It doesn't need to be full quality. It can be good enough. To go back to my shower curtain example, like I said, getting it hung up was the big thing. Getting it steamed or getting it so it wasn't wrinkled was something that wasn't necessary to what needed to happen. Lowering that friction in your life, feeling like you need to be perfect or hold some really high standard, is an easy way to start to learn how to discern what's important and what's necessary versus what is shame-based that you're pushing on yourself. And another thing you can do, like I do with the DoorDash, is offload some of the responsibilities where you can. Automate things. I don't pay a single bill. Every one of my bills is on auto pay. Going paperless for statements. If you have the capacity, hiring somebody to help, getting a DoorDash subscription, whatever it is that can be something that you can put off and take out of your capacity so you can use that for things that are load-bearing and have greater impact on your life. As a distinction here, learning discernment is not learning to restrict your life. It's not learning to make choices to make yourself small. It's learning what's happening in every decision and every task that you have running in your life. It allows you to start looking at what your capacity is, allows you to have those deeper connections with your friends and your family and your loved ones and your partner, instead of spending it all on running your life on autopilot with all of these tasks running in your task manager that don't really need to be there. When you stop overgiving by default and you start being mindful about this, discernment gets easier and easier to apply to your life. Like I said, the shower curtain wasn't the problem. It was just something that needed to be done while my system was running too many processes in the background. There was just too much going on. I was already maxed out until 3 weeks later when I could finally look at it and go, okay, we can do this today. And that wasn't a failing on my part. It was me over-allocating my time and not recognizing all of the pieces that go into so much of my life. Discernment is how you stop finding out that you are out of capacity at the exact moment you need your capacity the most. If you're trying to figure out your true capacity after years of burnout, I specialize in helping my clients figure out how to apply discernment to their lives in order to make good, healthy decisions. Book a Make It Make Sense call, and let's talk about how this could apply for you. The link is in the show description. And until next time, go easy on yourself. It's not really the worst thing when something takes longer for you to get it done, if it means you didn't burn out in the process.